Hey everybody. Hey, so I'm gonna work on a car for a guy. I've been working on a few cars for him. They're mostly Formula One cars. Some of them are the early Carrera cars, some are the E cars, but he sent me a couple cars that aren't Carrera. They're well, this NSR BWT car. That's one, and he wants to get that digitized and running on his track. The other, the Alfa Romeo, which is already digitized, so I learned quite a bit from it. But we're going to work on the BWT. Once we get it digitized, then I'm going to go over a little bit about what I do to try to make them actually perform, because frankly, NSR cars compared to the Carrera cars I'm used to, the Formula One cars, they don't seem to handle worth crap. So we're going to go over some tires. At least I'm going to try a couple things. So bear with me. Let's get going. Right, for this project, we've got the NSR Formula 22 and a FT Slottechnik SCD2022 digital decoder. It's got brakes and headlight and tail light. It comes with the leads, and it comes with this little grommet that's supposed to work for your IR decoder. Then there's the IR decoder, which is built on a little remote wire set, so that's kind of cool. They're a great size. They fit almost anywhere, and if they fit in one of these cars, they'll fit in almost anything. They have a couple downsides in that they don't do pace car, so they don't do safety car, and they will not do what the Carrera cars do, go from digital to analog and back. So once you go digital with one of these, you're digital. You're not going to change it unless you open it up and hook the wires straight to the motor. So with this SCD chip, trying to mount it in the chassis is difficult. There's just not a lot of places to do it. There's one guy who shows mounting it on the motor where you actually cut the area. In this area right here, you grind that off and then it sets upright, but then he resolders the wires on the other direction. I'm not a big fan of that. I want it to fit in the chassis, but you got to remember that the IR emitter is going to go in here. So the only way that I found to do this is to take these off. You can desolder them and pull them out of the way. Try desoldering it and fitting it, but where it's going to sit is right inside there next to the driver. In fact, you have to take a little bit of the driver's seat and arm off, slice that off so they'll slide in there. So that's how I'm going to do this. Try to just desolder this time and see how it works out, but pretty sure I'm going to end up cutting that board like I did on the last one. Alright, so my attempt at desoldering didn't work. For some reason my solder gun didn't want to work this morning, so it's still soldered on, but what I did was I just got a screwdriver underneath the connector and lifted it, and I just did the whole bend it back and forth thing till it came off. And that's what I did with each one of these. I pulled them off. Where this is going to sit on the car, and I put a little black dot just to remind me that that's the side I'm working with. It's going to sit right in here, okay? But anyway, board's going to sit in there like that. This will come over, we'll bend it at 90 degrees. That'll go into the chassis. It ends up on that forward dot right there between the rails. But on this chassis, or this body, anywhere ahead of that line is good. I like to get a little flatter in there, so I'm probably going to take a little tool and cut this corner off, and hopefully not have to take off the driver's arm, but I did that on the other one. Now I feel like I've got this where I want it. This will fit in there nice. It'll sit down a little closer and flush, and it stays just at that line. This will fit, no problem. As you can see, the chip now fits in there. Just a matter of getting the wires hooked up. We'll get it hooked up. We'll get it running, and we will verify that the chip works. I'll just kind of tie it in there temporarily until I make sure I didn't ruin the chip, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to do this next part. So I'm going to take this out. We know it's going to go on this side and about right there. We know that the emitter is going to go right here. Our little casting, that seems to be a good spot for it. The gray and purple wires are going to be the motor wires. We're not exactly 100% sure which way that's going to make the motor turn correctly, so we're going to hold off on that. Since these wires are plenty long, no sense cutting and soldering those anywhere, like not keeping the white wires. So I'm just going to replace the white wires all the way to the end. Make sure that you put the red on the left side of the brush, left side being the driver's side, and the black on the right side. I am not a fan of NSR cars where it comes to the way they hook up their brushes, but that's the way they do it, so we're going to do it the way they do it. So this way we can just twist the wires together, put a little something on them, keep them from going, set it on the track, make sure everything's good, and then go from there. All right, so that's on. Nice thing is this will fit right through there, so we can put that all on. So the wires are supposed to go under the axle, so I'm just going to take the axle out real quick. Another thing I'm really not a fan, I like being able to take the wheels off easy like this, but the adjusting the height of the axle is kind of interesting to me, especially when it doesn't seem to, there's a freaking tool that'll fit the damn thing. I can never find anything, but there's going to be some Allens, some small set screws that go in here, and you can adjust those up or down to either get your axle to touch or not touch. So next is to figure out where the emitter goes. The best way to figure out where your emitter is going to set is to set the car on a track. Here's the emitter right here, so we want that to be in as line, about a line that it can go. And you can see there's this little dot right there. It's a casting, and it looks like that's the perfect place for it because it goes right over it. So that's what I'm going to use for it. That's where the emitter is going to go, is right there. So we're going to drill a hole there, place the emitter in it. I'm probably not going to use the bushing, but we'll see where we go. So I'm going to start this with a smaller drill bit than what I need, just to make sure I kind of get it in the right spot, right in the center of this. Alright, that's worked. This is a numbered drill bit. It's close to an 1/8 inch. It's a number 33. I choose that because the IR emitter is slightly larger, which hopefully that will hold it in place without using the grommets. I'm not a big fan of the grommets right now. They used to have good grommets, but there was a change in their manufacturer or something while I was still in Germany, and it was goofy. Yeah, that's a good drill bit. See. All right, so we're right there. If I don't use the grommet, then I believe the depth of those I guess diffusers won't be in the way. All right, so now I got the hole drilled, and hopefully it's gonna be, might have to wiggle it out or wobble it out just a hair, but I want this to fit tight. Oh, it helps if my hands were working. Okay, that's going. That's pretty good. Fits in there good. Not really flush. I might put a little grommet underneath this to keep it, to limit where it goes. So maybe I'll take a portion of the grommet and make a washer. But let's see. If it goes all the way in, I can always adjust it back. The depth is probably a 1/16 of an inch below. So the question is it going to rub? Yes, it will hit. So we need to back that off. I guess I'm going to use parts of this little grommet thing. I can glue it in, but I don't like gluing things in. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim. If I can hold on to it, I'm going to cut this down. And just use this as a washer, basically. I think that'll work. We'll put it on the top side, and that should limit where it goes. This guy out. I mean, that's pretty damn tight. All right, I might trim that off just a little bit more. But now I've got it pretty much flush with the bottom. We're going to take another drill bit and just take those diffusers off, just to give it some, so it's not blinding it right or left. I don't think it will, but I always try to give it a little rim. So that's pretty good in there. I don't think I need to glue that. I guess if it had a pretty good accident, it could come out, but I'm having a hard time. I guess all right, we're gonna slim this down just a hair. I guess we'll go back to the way we were doing it before. This is the best way I can figure out how to do this. I mean, I don't have an assortment of tiny washers. All right, so there, let's trim that off. So, all right, let's see where we are here. I like it. All right, so that's going to go in that area. This will go here. There should be enough room for those wires. If not, I can tuck them in a little bit different. Maybe put a little twist in them. And remember, this is going to be in the body, so you have to have a little bit of leeway to be able to lift the body, to put it where it belongs in the body, and then lift it off the chassis. So it might not be a bad idea to give enough of this to loop it around so that you can lift it up, lift the body off the cars. Okay. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna put purple on this side. Twist that on. And I'm just gonna slip a little shrink tubing over it just to keep it in, so I don't do something stupid and arc it out or something. That's just going to be temporary until I verify we got the motor going the right way. All right, so that, there, see, shrink tubing. We'll put the gray on the other side. Okay, so theoretically, this should all function. So we're gonna have to move this to the side. It has to go in this way. Forgot about that. And I'm probably gonna have to do a little cut on the body to accommodate the IR emitter. So we'll see how it goes first. Yeah, so we're gonna take a little chunky chunk out of that corner for that emitter to stick out. No matter how I do it, that's the way it goes. Let's turn it a little bit further, but here's the thing. That's what locks the car down on in the case. If you want to put it back in the case, you gotta make sure your wires are gonna be out of the way. So we have to maneuver that. For now, let's just get this thing on here. I'm gonna chop that body just a little. And I hate cutting a guy's chassis to do this, but it's the only way we're gonna get that emitter in place. All right, so now let's see if we can get this on there in a little hole. Other than the emitter, we're good. So we can take a little bit of that chassis off right there. Ooh, I hate to do this part. I hate this part. Okay, let's get a couple screws in it. All right, we're gonna lift the cover off the track and see what happens. Hopefully, it's gonna go the right direction. Otherwise, we'll switch those two wires. And it goes the right way. Oh, God, that's terrible. Start out with. Terrible. The question is, does it switch lanes? That's the thing we gotta do. So, it changes. That's good. All right, so it's in. Just need inside of the wires for the motor. The wheels drive the right way, so the purple wire on the right side is the correct side. But now we just got to get the thing so it actually runs, because they're terrible. I wanted to talk a little bit about performance features that I did to this car that I haven't yet to do to the Alfa Romeo, but I'm going to probably do the same thing because I found that they work pretty well. One is the magnetism. So magnetism is required in my opinion. A lot of people say they don't like magnets, but for this to mimic a Formula One car, to mimic the downforces that are created by aerodynamics that aren't going to work in the slot car arena, is the magnetism, and that just basically imitates it. So these cars don't have much of magnets much for the magnets. The front one's pretty good, right? It actually got pretty good magnetism on there, but the front one doesn't keep the back from sliding around. And that is kind of usually the magnet, or the magnets within the motor. However, I took a Carrera magnet, which looks like this right here, and I modified the chassis in this area here to hold the magnet, and you can see the magnet right across there. It's not glued in place, it's actually slid in through the frame of that motor holder. But now I've got some significant magnetism on the back, and that helps the downforce, which helps the car stick to the track. So how I made that work is I drilled two very small holes that were about the thickness of the magnet side by side on each side of the rail. I figured about where I wanted it to fit as far as the location on this back. On the back section, it went too close to the ring gear, and I wanted it kind of similar to the way the Formula 1 cars are on the Carreras. I'm trying to mimic that. Anyway, then I cut the distance between the two holes, slotted them so that they were the same, the slot was the same width as the magnet, slid the magnet in, got the length on it, and then I used my little cutoff wheel on my die grinder to cut the magnet down to size. Once I did that, and I put the chassis back together, or the motor device, whatever, back together, the chassis rails seem to hold everything in place. So even if I did have the holes a little bit too loose, it couldn't come out because it's being held in by the two rails on the chassis. So that was a big difference in the way the car performed. Secondly, you know, tires have to be replaced. These tires, in my opinion, on the NSR Formula 1 cars are terrible. On the car, they have a big groove down the center that and there's not much to true up. So I took the tires off of this Capri RS, and they appear to be just the perfect fit. So this will be getting its own set, and I'll true them up to the axle. Once I do that, I'll get a set for the Alfa Romeo as well. And then I get those from a guy in Germany, so I'm not exactly sure of the number, but they are for that Carrera RS car. So I think it's the 3100 RS. But anyway, got the tires on it. So those are polyurethane, so that of course changed the dynamics of the handling. But then the problem I had was that this NSR guide, if you even want to call it that, just wasn't doing the trick. So I happen to have these CG Slotcar Carrera guide adapters, and I use those for when I build the 124 scale Formula 1 cars. And if you take the guide off, it has a screw that holds it together. It fits in this car pretty nice, and the wires go in the same way with the goofy little press-in things. And then the guide is pretty nice size. It works pretty well, and it's a little deeper than the other one, which is important because I also changed how the axle is fitted into this car. So one more thing about the CG Slotcar guide on this car. Because that screw is what holds it in place, and now that screw is on this car, if I were to change the brushes out, I would have to take the top of take the body off the car so that I could take that screw loose, so that I could then change the brushes out. Kind of a little bit of a setback, but it's not bad considering the performance. So from the factory, the NSR axles have adjustable stops that you can put in these holes, right? And that raises the axle up or down. Well, all the way down, in my opinion, wasn't far enough, and it was dragging on that guide and on the brushes, and I'm not a big fan of that. I like to do it like Carrera cars that has some of the weight of the car on the front tires. A lot of people don't like that, but I do, and I think it helps the handling. So I took some small bearings, and see if I can do this. My fingers are so big. They're chamfered. So I went ahead and figured out where I wanted the hole to be, and I drilled the hole, and then I drilled it with a really small drill. Then I used my die grinder to open it up so that that bearing would fit inside that front suspension area. Eventually I will probably put a drop of super glue on them to hold them in place, but they seem to do pretty well. And it put the axle in just the right spot, so now when the car sits on the track, you can see that the guide actually sits down inside the groove and pretty well. So we already touched base with the IR emitter. That's what it looks like once it's in there. And then I still haven't yet to solder the wires on. It's still kind of in test mode, but it's pretty good. This now fits into the body. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble it, and I'll show you how it runs on the track. Okay, pretty good. I'm liking it. Okay, so turned out pretty good. It seems to hold the track pretty well. It has nice speed. Braking and all that stuff works. Lane changing works. I like the car overall. I'm not a big NSR fan, but this one's kind of got my attention. Now I just got to put the same kind of stuff on that NSR right there, which has already got the chip in it, but now I got to tweak it so that it matches the way this one handles. So probably I might change out the rear axle bushings for bearings. I'm not even sure if these have bearings. It's got something back there. I got to take a look. If they're bushings, I'm going to change them probably to the bearings. Other than that, I think this one's ready to go back in the box. Oh, speaking of that, so one of the reasons I put the chip where I put it, which is not under the driver's seat, is because this will go back in the case, and I have to ship this back to the guy who owns it, so I like to put it in the case where it belongs. So if you put the chip on the side where I put it, you don't have to worry about that, and it'll go right back in the case, and it'll be just fine. So anyway, that's all I got for now. You can leave some comments if you like. Hope this was helpful. Hope it's not too boring. Thanks. Bye.